Cool, man. Hey, thanks for coming by.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Me.
Francesca Parker reached out to me and was like, hey, you got to have this guy on. He's awesome. So
awesome. Yeah.
and you got some really cool shit going on. So let's just talk about your background, like where you're from, how you got into the SEALs. Like, let's just start from the beginning, you know?
Totally. Yeah. So I grew up in Virginia in Blacksburg. It's a pretty normal, middle class upbringing for the first little bit. Everyone in Blacksburg's, like, all of our parents worked for the university, so it was kind of a unique place where everyone, it was like one social class.
And that's the University of Virginia right there?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech,
Yeah, southwest corner of Virginia. And, so my dad was working at the university, pretty normal upbringing. He was really, he was pretty into the outdoors. And, so he was taking me fishing and camping and whatnot. And that kind of led into rock climbing. And then his stepbrother was a kayaker in the Olympics. Well, he was an alternate in the Olympics, and so he sort of got me into whitewater kayaking, and I was like full force into it, as into it as I could possibly be, into high school. And so, pretty normal, wrestled, and then,
What weight did you wrestle?
Man, I started, I remember one day when I was a freshman putting on a backpack and like getting the scale over 100 pounds. I was like in the 90s, and then someone was like, just get on there with your backpack on. So with my school books, and I hit like 100. And then I think I finished at 152 my senior year. And so I definitely, I did all my growing in those 4 years, which was kind of tough because you're always like, you want to start at a lighter weight and like gain skill, but stay.
Yeah.
The guys that are like 112, 103, and they're seniors in high school you're wrestling a lot of freshmen, but
we just had Bo Nickel on.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
sweet.
Dude's an animal. Absolute animal.
Yeah. So I finish up high school. I'm done wrestling. That was like a, ton of commitment, high school wrestling. And I was like, man, I only want to kayak. My parents were like, you have to go to college. So I went to University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, because that's where the Olympics were, basically. The Atlanta Olympics, they built like a big training center on the Ocoee there. And so I went down there, and I was like 80% fun and 20% school. And that drug on to like the 5th year. And, I had no ambitions of doing anything that my college, like my colleagues wanted to do, like in business or whatever. And I was
what degree? What kind of?
I got a degree in, I started a degree in political science because I like defaulted to, it's kind of interesting to talk about, I guess.
Yeah.
I was just going to school because my parents were like, this is what you do. So, time's running out. Basically, like, I'm not going to graduate on time. Financially, my parents are like, this is the end of the road, man. And, I had no plans. And so simultaneously, the war in Afghanistan, Iraq was like, this was in 2009, 6-7 years old. And people were getting like, the American public was like, what are we doing? And so special operations started getting really, it was at the forefront of the strategy. Like, well, we can't have these guys blowing up in IEDs anymore. We're just going to cut the head of the snake off with these SEALs and Green Berets and all this stuff. So it was sort of getting popular. And then I had wrestled with some guys and gone to high school with some guys at the Naval Academy, and they were also graduating. And they seemed like they had purpose in life and structure. So I'm looking at these dudes, and I'm also looking at these guys I'm in, around the frat house. And I'm like, damn it, dude, I should have gone to the Naval Academy and wrestled, and then I could become like a Navy SEAL. And come to find out, they're like, dude, it doesn't even matter. You can just do it.
Yeah.
It actually might even be better for you to like try to become a SEAL and not have done what we did. And so I was like sort of out of options, and I was sort of having this like existential crisis about what am I going to do with my life. I was kind of
and you're like, what, 22, 23 years old?
Yeah, probably 21. Yeah.
It's hard to figure out what you're going to do.
Oh, man, totally.
I always tell people that I was like, even my wife and I talk about it all the time. She's like, you're so lucky that you had football was what I was going to do. Right. So I had like my plan already. So
right.
I knew what I was going to be doing. You know, a lot of people when they're that age, they have no clue what they're going to do. Even if they do have a degree, they still don't have a clue what they're going to do. So I was very blessed.
Yeah, it's a lot for an 18-year-old to be, you know, if you can pick what you want to do at that age and it's still what you want to do at 40, I mean, you're going to be pretty successful.
Right.
It's very rare. So anyway, yeah, I was kind of like, I was a guy that I would look at today and say like, man, you need to take some responsibility for yourself. And,
get your shit together, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I was like, man, I'm doing this, you know, this will be a fresh start. I can get out there. I can like redefine, you know, all these bad D's and C's I've been earning and like, you know, letting my parents down. Like I'll just become a SEAL and that'll sort of like, be new.
Right the wrongs.
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, it sounds simple, but that's basically what I did. I just went to the recruiter's office and, it takes a long time to like process and stuff. I mean, you can't, medical shit and, anyway,
you gotta do physicals and all that
dude,
shit.
it takes forever unless you're like some freak, genetically fine person, you know.
Well, Remy was telling me, he's like, man, I had to train for like a year or something. He had to like get his weight up and get his, get all of his times right. And you had to be able to do so many pull-ups and so many push-ups and so many, you have to run a mile. What is it? The 2 mile?
I think it's a mile and a half for him now.
Yeah. It's something crazy, but you have to do it in a certain time. And he was like, I had to build up to that because he said he was just skinny.
Yeah. Yep. It's a lot, and it got a little bit harder. I think it's by like zip code now. Is a sort of a competition pool or something. I don't totally know how it works, but certain places in America, like San Diego, it's very, very competitive because you'll have like a couple hundred guys, and then you could go to like some county in Iowa, and it would be like, just raise your hand and they'll send you. So anyway, yeah, off I went and found a new life there in San Diego.
So what was that? What was that like? Just showing up there, you know? Did you have to go through like? Did you have to go through anything, or any kind of process to get into that? Like,
I mean, you have to go to boot camp like a regular guy, you know, because probably like, you know, if you looked at like 100 guys at basic training that say they want to be SEALs, man, in reality, like I bet 10 of them will, or maybe 15.
Yeah.
And so they have gotten smart enough to sort of train you for your likely outcome, which is just a regular Navy sailor. So you have to
not
go
wasting your time.
Exactly. So it's not a waste of their time. So you kind of have to process through like a regular guy, and then you go to Buds in San Diego.
Do you think that wrestling, that wrestler's
totally.
mentality was like a huge help for you to get through?
100%. Yeah, it wasn't my...
I wrestled in high school too.
Oh, nice,
It's like the hardest sport I've ever done.
Yeah,
honestly.
it wasn't my first experience with like someone just
being
like
miserable,
not being sympathetic to you and being like, dude, get the, you know, whatever.
Nobody cares. Yeah. Nobody cares. Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and rub your back. It was hard, you know, it was super hard, but like definitely if a guy was like 10 years old and he was like, I want to be a SEAL in 15 years, I would say like, I would definitely consider wrestling. I think there's other sports you could get the same.
Yeah, football's another one of those sports.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
you have to
hard,
push
man.
through shit that just sucks. You're getting screamed at and yelled at all the time.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to stay calm in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a lot for a 15-year-old, like not eating, and you know, his coaches are pretty rough, and getting your head pounded in the mat. I mean, you're going to lose a lot as a wrestler, you know, as if you're a freshman and if you don't start as a kid, I mean, you're going to go to these tournaments, parents drive to see you, and you're just, you know, getting smashed into the mat, and it's a lot for a kid. So it was great. It was great exposure. So, yes, I went to San Diego, you know, was fortunate enough to get through all the training, and this was in 2010 and 11. So they killed bin Laden like when I was in Buds.
Okay.
So it was like, I mean, we were like fired up. We thought like, oh man, this is gonna be awesome. And yeah, I was from Virginia, so at the end they're like, do you want to be in San Diego or do you want to be in Virginia? And my parents were from Virginia. I had a bunch of friends still in undergrad, and I was thinking like, oh, this will be cool. I go back to my home state, and I went to Virginia Beach, which is 5 hours from where I grew up. And I was there like another 9 years, but it's awful. I didn't enjoy being in Virginia Beach at all.
Why not?
It's just, I mean, I don't want to say too much bad about it, but it's just not.
It's not San
as
Diego.
far as like recreation stuff, like we like to do, like there's nothing there, and I don't really get into like ocean stuff because I had to do it at work. You know, you're kind of like in and out of the ocean at work all the time, and so to be like, oh, it's the weekend, let's go play in the sand. Like, no, I don't want to do that at all. And you know, the Norfolk is the world's largest Navy base.
Yeah.
Which, watch my words a little bit, but it's the culture of the city, sort of. So you're at work, and then you like go out, you know, you go home
around
like,
the same people all the time.
Let's get some dinner, and then it's just like Navy, and then more. It's just like so.
Yeah, you can't
get out of it.
I know exactly what you mean about that. Yeah,
and there's some good things to say about it. The SEAL teams in Virginia Beach are a little bit closer in terms of community, I think, because it's small and you just sort of live by each other, and you'll have teammates on your street and whatnot. In San Diego, I don't know if you've ever been to Coronado, but like once you go over that bridge, it's like, and so guys live in Encinitas and 100 different places. So when you don't feel when you're at home like, oh, I'm in sort of a community of team guys
like
here.
I'm at work when I'm at home type of feeling.
Yeah, right. And in Virginia Beach, it's very like if your kids go to kindergarten, you know, there's going to be like probably 2 or 3 other SEAL dads in that class or something. And so it's very it's a great community. But in terms of like the geographic land, I hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through almost a decade.
And you were there for a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, I was, but you're gone a lot. I mean, maybe like 200 days or something, or 180 days, I think people calculated.
On deployment?
With deployment and then the training.
Yeah.
Because the war in Afghanistan was sort of the forefront of focus, so a lot of it was like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Nevada, a lot of training out here in the West because it just makes sense, and it's more spacious.
Yeah, it's a lot. The terrain over there is a lot like the Rockies, right? It's
right.
Similar, like climate and everything, and altitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, steep mountains and then barren, dry desert. So I was deploying a lot and going on trips. And
how many deployments did you do?
I did 3. 3 deployments, and so that's like it takes about 2 years to do. Like all the trips and the training, and then deploy, and then you start the circle again. Like it's just a never-ending go-around. I'm sure just like the NFL season, like you have the games, break, camp, preseason. It just goes around forever,
and it flies because you're stuck in this like cycle.
Yeah,
and routine.
It is, man. It's crazy. Like you're new and you don't know shit, and then. Like now I'll keep in touch with some guys and they're like so senior, and in my mind they're like brand new dudes, and they're like, oh, now I'm like a team leader of this, like of a platoon and stuff. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it was. I went over to the Broncos facility yesterday.
Oh, nice.
So there was a bunch of guys that were like rookies.
Yeah.
When I was like a 8 to 9 year vet over there, and there's all these guys that are like they're going in there like 6th, 7th, 8th year, 9th year.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude,
Makes
this
you
is
feel old, doesn't it?
crazy. Yeah. I was like, you're grown up now, man. You were just a pup when you came in here.
Totally.
They got families and stuff
man.
now.
Yeah.
They're married. They got kids. It's like it's really cool to see, but also makes me feel old.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the system. I don't know, it sounds maybe like a little narcissistic, but like when you leave the system, like the system's just like, oh, we don't care. Like we're going to go. We're keeping going forever, They're like, but anyway, I started doing a bunch of my vacationing out here because it was sort of the antithesis of beach. And so I got married in the middle of this, and we would come to Boulder climb and hike and ski and Jackson Hole and all this. And so when I was ready to get out, I was like telling my wife, like, if you don't have some adamant location or adamant opinion about where we land, I want to move to Colorado. And she was sweet enough to be like, wherever you want to find a job and whatever. And I just only looked for jobs here in Denver.
Yeah.
so out we came.
So how long were you a SEAL?
I was a SEAL just shy of 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
You just had enough of it?
Yeah, I guess. I was going to come up with like a complex answer, then I was like, yeah, it just means had enough of it. No, I did the 3 deployments back to back, and then so it was sort of like time to do something else.
Yeah.
It's not healthy for the guys, and it's not productive for the force to just go around and deploy like that forever. And then also at the 10-year mark, you have to re-enlist for another 5. And so it's sort of a jump-off point where you're either going to go to 20 and retire or you're not. No one really gets out at 15 because it's like you're going to get a pension you might as well just go to 20.
Yeah. So
it sounds kind of weird, but 10 is really the split in the trail. Like, hey, is this a forever thing or not? Yeah, so I was looking at having to do other stuff, which is going to be like more training or office type jobs in Virginia Beach. My wife was pregnant, and I had a pretty good, I had a pair of concussions, like 2 big TBIs on the last go round. And so I was dealing with that, and I went to like a brain health center in Portsmouth. And it wasn't a huge part of my decision to get out, but it was like, they were kind of asserting like, hey, if you want to continue in this career, like you can either keep doing it and you're going to face some serious consequences, brain-wise, or you can keep doing it and just avoid those paths, like just be a SEAL that, elects to do non-combat. Like, just don't put yourself in a position where you can get, your bell rung really hard again.
Yeah.
And that, I didn't have any interest in that because I was like, well.
So those concussions were back to back, like,
yeah, and that was
days
sort
apart,
of,
or?
no, maybe 60 days apart. And
Yeah.
I didn't even know at the time, but now it's a little bit more common knowledge how bad it is to get concussed when you're concussed.
Oh, it's worse.
Yeah,
it's so much worse.
It's like exponential.
Yeah. And how did those happen? Like, was it from explosions or?
The second one was, the first one we were training and a guy fell off it was night time, and I got in we were diving. And so I got in the water, and I was like either flush with the surface or maybe like an inch under. It was pitch dark. And so now more divers are trying to get in too, and they didn't see me. And so this dude jumped off a boat with a scuba tank, and it cracked me like right in the top of the skull. Yeah, and so I was in the hospital like...
You're probably nauseous immediately.
Oh man, it was like lights out, and it was not good. And so I went to... I just dealt with that, and like, it's not... I'm sure it's the same in the NFL. Like, you're not really under the impression that that's special, because guys have been deploying to in IEDs and stuff for 15 years.
Yeah.
You're not really raising your hand like, hey, I'm not okay, because you're like, well, look at this guy.
Yeah, nobody's okay.
No, exactly. Exactly. And so, yeah, so I dealt with that, and then on the next deployment, I was exposed to a blast, and I got really sick. A couple days of vomiting and confusion, and like just obviously really concussed. And a few of the other guys that were exposed to the blast were not really that. They were like, it doesn't feel good, but it's I'm fine.
Yeah.
And so that's when the neurologist was sort of like, yeah, man, these blasts are making you vomit and stuff. It's not good.
That's not good.
Yeah.
No. And that's the other thing. Once you get a concussion, you're susceptible to get another one a little easier.
Totally.
It happens more. That's how I noticed at the end of my career. It was like, I was getting them for like very, very low impact.
Yeah.
Like just getting hit, like not, it was more of like, I wasn't paying attention and I'd get hit from the side. And that would like jar me, and I'd be like, "Oh man!" Like I'd get sick to my stomach, and I was like, "This ain't good."
Yeah,
it was starting to happen a little too easy.
Right.
So that's scary.
Super scary.
It scares the shit out of you.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So then, back to your question, I was just like, yeah, I can either keep going down this road and become senior and, avoid these circumstances, or I could just not and just say like, hey, this is my shit. It's gonna cost me some, neurodegenerative issues down the line, and it's also a little bit hard for guys at that age. Is if you think about SEALs that are jumping out of planes and kicking in doors and shooting guys and doing what you would see like in a movie, that guy's like, he's between his like third year and his 10th maybe.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on that we don't see in the movies and the shows, and like a lot of leadership and admin and money and logistics, and so you're going to start taking on that role. I mean, you're not running and gunning forever till your 20th year. And so already at the 10-year mark, you're starting to think like, shit, man, is this something I want to do? Because my operational tenure's sort of and that's not an absolute. I mean, you can sort of find your way into some stuff like later, but it's hard.
Yeah.
So
they make it more difficult for you to kind of do what you want to do.
Yeah. Right? I mean, the force needs leadership. They need all the roles filled. I mean, you can't just be a shooter forever.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and I was interested in other stuff. I mean, I loved it. I think I joined the Navy to kind of contribute to something, and I felt like I had done that. I wanted to figure out, who I was and how tough I was. I'd figured that out, and I didn't have a lot of like mysteries or unchecked boxes, I felt like. And so
no regrets leaving, right?
No, I loved it, man. Yeah. I loved every, not every minute, but I loved most of them. And if a 20-year-old kid came to me today and was like, I'm thinking about doing this, I would say, dude, it's awesome. It's the best way to spend your 20s ever. It's incredible. So yeah, out to Colorado I went, and now I'm in the real world, in the workforce with its own it's got its own pains.
Well, it's funny. There's always been for me at least, I've always connected well with like retired veterans, because there's a lot of correlation there where you're going from like this high adrenaline, like I would say even more than the adrenaline, it's the structure. Like everything's structured and planned out for you.
Right.
So like you always know what you're going to be doing, when you're going to do it. And you're in a routine and all this stuff, and then it's just done.
Right.
And it's like, okay, now I have to like figure out my own routine and my own structure and all that stuff. And that's not easy. No. Whenever it's been, so I've been doing this since I was 7.
Yeah.
I've been playing football since I was 7 years old, and it's always been kind of like, that was my purpose. That's what I did. Everything I did was for that. Right. So, I know it's difficult to come out of that, and a lot of guys struggle with it.
Yeah.
So that's why I always, like, when I get a chance to talk to a vet, and I was just with the USAA guys over at the facility. Cool. So like a bunch of Air Force and Navy and a couple Marines and every branch except for the Coast Guard was out there. So it was like 55 guys and girls out there. And it was just like, just talking to them, they're always like, man, what's retirement like? And I'm like, they're all pretty young still, you know? And I was like, man, I told them, I was like, it's just tough it's hard to like get your own routine, figure out your routine for something different, right? Because it's, even with training, like I always trained my ass off because I always felt like if I didn't train hard, somebody else was going to train hard and they're going to pass me up. So, and there's always some new guy to take your job.
Totally.
Like there's a draft every single year. So there's thousands of kids coming out of college that are looking to take your job, so.
Totally.
There's that. It's like a rat race. So now that that's done, it's like finding motivation and purpose and other things.
Totally.
It's just finding something else to put your energy into.
Yeah. And like the optionality of it all is sort of heavy. Like,
because there's a lot of
it was like super obvious, I'm sure, like playing football, to when you wake up, like your eyes open, like, all right, what do I have to do today? It's so obvious.
Yeah.
I have practice at this time and or we're training for this thing and we're doing whatever. And now you've got, you kind of think like, fuck, what am I supposed to be doing, like holistically? And is this the right job for me? And like, oh, should I be doing this? Like, it's a lot. It took a while for that to kind of catch up with me. How 22 was your last season?
Yeah, 2022 was my last season. Well, 2021 was my last season. So 2022 was my first year out.
Yeah.
So last fall was my first year out of the NFL.
Okay.
And it was like, I got into bow hunting.
Yeah.
Like I'd bow hunted since I was a kid, but I really wanted to Western hunt.
Yeah.
Because it just was never available because you're always, September is the start of the season, you're on lockdown from August
to,
from July all the way through February, pretty much. You're kind of on lockdown as long as you're a good team, at least till January.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never been able to really do any kind of fall hunting. So like substantial fall hunting, like mountain hunting. So that's what I just jumped right into that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was perfect for me.
Nice.
It was tough on my wife because I was gone all of September, like kind of dove into that and just to kind of keep myself from losing my mind. But that was a huge help for me, was get the bow hunting. And I think, and it's because there's a lot of, you have to grind, right? When you're Western hunting, it's not like, it's a physical and a mental grind. And it's like an endorphin drop for me to get to do that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's what I kind of just, it was a natural occupation for me, I guess.
Totally.
Like, it's hard to earn. You're not going to earn a ton of money doing it, but if I can make it pay for itself, cool.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the NFL is you make enough money that if you play 10 years in the NFL, you should have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life. So everything else should be just for fun.
And then can you bow hunt in Colorado when it's rifle season also? Or are they totally separate?
No, yeah, you can if you have a rifle tag, you could bow hunt, right, Lane? Like it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, but you still have to follow the rules. You have to wear hunter orange because they don't want somebody walking out there. Just because you have a bow doesn't mean that the other dude with the rifle, and they don't want someone getting shot and stuff.
Yeah.
So
you can still
it's a little bit harder, but yeah, you totally can.
But when it comes to elk, you want to hunt them in September when they're rutting,
right?
With a bow. With a rifle, you can reach out and touch them a little bit more, but with the bow, you got to be within 50. Like I don't really want to shoot at an elk, past 80 yards max. So like that's the furthest I'm shooting at one.
Right.
If he's at 100 and he's a huge bull, maybe. Yeah, I'm sending
that's
that arrow.
Awesome, dude.
I'm sending that arrow. Let's be honest. If I'll send it at an antelope, I'll send it at an elk, So it's getting in within 100 yards is tough,
right.
So
totally, a lot of stalking.
Yeah, especially when when they're rutting, you can call them right. You could call them to get their attention. Mm-hmm. But out of that season, you're really just spotting, stalking, and trying to get yourself in position with it. But yeah, you can rifle hunt them, and there's all kinds of options to get into it. It's like you don't have to bow hunt. And that's why I actually killed my first animal ever with I was with the Born and Raised guys out in Oregon.
Oh, cool.
We did a bear hunt with a rifle, and that was the first time I ever killed anything with a rifle.
Oh, no kidding.
And I was like, this is actually pretty cool. Like it's because you have to practice those long range shots,
Yeah.
So we practiced all the way up to like 700 yards. I never shot anything close to that far. I grew up in Ohio where we weren't even allowed to use rifles. You can't hunt with a rifle there because they just don't. It's too flat, which is weird because it was like super Appalachia mountain, but at the same time, it's like the furthest you're shooting is like 150 yards.
Yeah, right.
So and that was like a poke with a shotgun, the
totally.
slug.
So you shot a bear at 700?
No, I shot him at like 250.
Okay.
But it was super cool.
That's awesome.
Just to do it. Make a good shot on him.
And,
it was really cool to me. But I still I prefer bow hunting. Mm-hmm. I think that as I get like older and I can't get around the way that I get around now, then I'll probably gravitate more towards rifle hunting. But while I'm young, I'm gonna I'm in till I'm at least in my 50s, 60s, I'm going to try to bow hunt.
Yeah, good for you. It's tough, man. There's a lot of, and I think there's something about it, you're not going to be successful, 50% of the time or even less. So I think there's part of that too. Like
it's less than that. It's
right.
like, 11% usually is like a high percentage, right?
Right.
Of success.
Oh, for bow hunting, it's less than 10%.
Yeah, it's usually like 11% is high. If you look at it, when you look at areas that you're going to hunt, especially in Colorado, if you look at areas you're going to hunt and it says like 11%, you're like, ooh.
Oh, nice.
Like, 11. And it's crazy to think that. Where you're like, oh, it's 11% there. Because most places are like 6, 5.
Go 10 days.
8%, it's like, and you're out there for 10, 14 days. You're putting on 10, 11 miles a day, 12 miles a day. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I mean, my first elk hunt was an over-the-counter elk hunt in Colorado up in Kremling, up in that area. And I did, in 4 days, we did 60 miles.
Wow.
And I never saw an elk. Or I saw one deer. It was a deer, and I didn't have a deer tag, but it was like, that's all I saw the whole time. Called in like 3 different dudes with, bugling at each other, thinking that, we both think we got a bull. And it's crazy because you go out of your way to hike, you'll go 2,000, 2,500 vertical feet first thing in the morning, 4 a.m. You get up at 4 a.m., hit the trail at 4:30 so you can get up there at first light. You get all the way up there and you're thinking there's no way anybody else is going to be here. Mm-hmm. And what do you know? You start ripping bugles and something answers back and you're like, oh, it's on. And then you look in your binoculars, it's another guy over there looking in his binoculars and you're both like, shit, But it's still fun.
Dude, it's a ton of similarities too. I mean, it's like you said, it's a grind. You got to work hard. You got to, you're not going to be successful. You got to train. Yeah. And that's sort of what we found. This nonprofit that I work with, Veterans Outdoor Advocacy Group, trying to figure out, we're trying to get the Veterans Affairs, so the VA, to look at, they are looking at, but prescribing outdoor recreation therapy through, through their mental health care. So if let's say you're a veteran and you're seeing a mental health provider at the VA and, they've got, all right, well, we can prescribe, pharmaceuticals, we can do this, you can take yoga classes, and then getting outdoor recreation paid for, as part of the treatment. And it's the same stuff, getting guys and girls, access to what you found, what you're describing in bow hunting, at a systemic level, and trying to broaden what, how we treat veteran mental health, outside of just pharmaceuticals. And not that that's the only way we're treating mental health, but I think there's a little bit of over-reliance on that. And the system could benefit from some diversity of care measures.
Well, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for microdosing psilocybin, just because that's helped me. It's been something that's, nothing else really helped. I have a lot of childhood trauma, and then you have the TBI traumas, from the brain injury, from just the constant banging with a helmet on, over and over and over again for 20 years. Doing that for 20 years, banging your head into somebody else, you're going to have some frontal lobe damage.
Yeah, totally. So that movement is sort of parallel to what we're doing. We see that sometimes we'll be in DC and we'll see the psychedelic veteran groups doing the same lobbying and stuff that we are. So is that like a daily practice for you?
Yeah. And it's that combined with being outside and being out in the wilderness and having like a purpose is, because you have a goal, right? Your goal is to try to, we're trying to kill an animal, right? But there's inside of that main goal, there's all these little missions that you have to complete, right?
Totally.
Like, hey, we got to get to this ridge, and using online maps now, it makes it great because you can look at these online maps and be like, okay, this looks like a good area. Let's go here. Let's try to work our way over to here. And then you got to think about the wind and all this other stuff and the thermals coming up and what time of day you're going there. And so there's all these little missions that you complete throughout the day.
Totally.
And then you might not end in success, but you feel you have a sense of accomplishment when you when you do get to the top of a ridge, right? And you're like, finally, I'm at the top of this ridge. And then sometimes you get there and you're like, oh, that's the ridge I got to be on
that ridge. Yeah,
totally. So then you have to figure out another way to get over there, and that keeps your mind busy. And keeps your mind grow. You're also growing your neurons, regrowing them because you're like challenging yourself mentally, physically, and all of that stuff in a healthy way.
Right.
So it's not. That's what I always try to tell people that don't hunt. They're like, oh, you just out there killing everything, right? It's like, no, man. Like First of all, I think there's a fine line between trophy hunting and selective hunting. Like, I'm hunting for a big bull, right? Like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a big, mature bull. If a young raghorn walks by me, I'm not going to shoot him unless I'm over the counter hunting in Colorado. And first legal bull you see, you better shoot him because you don't know if you'll see another one, you know?
Yeah.
So, but when you're in like that bull over there, that big 5x, that was a New Mexico bull. I was on the last day of the hunt. I had passed up probably 30 different bulls just because they weren't like, it wasn't what I was like really looking for, you know? It was like they were a little too young, and I was looking for like a big mature herd bull, you know, and that's what I got. So that's the goal. You always go out there with a goal, just depending on where you're hunting, you know.
Right.
Like if you're hunting in an area that's, you know, target rich, obviously you can be a little more selective. But you know, there's like this negative annotation of trophy hunters. Well, yeah, I would say that I do trophy hunt because I'm looking for like an animal that gets me going. Like it gets me fired up when I see that animal, you know. But I don't care about the score. It's whether or not it's how he looks and like his character and how he's acting. You know, especially these bulls in the rut, dude. If he's like real aggressive, I'm like, oh, that gets me fired up. You know, because he's coming in ready to fight. It's high adrenaline. Same with these mule deer, you know, and whitetail. You catch them when they're rutting.
Right.
It's the same way, man. Right. It's a lot of fun. And I think there's a huge correlation with, who was it? Donnie Vincent. You know who Donnie Vincent is?
No.
You got to meet him. He's an awesome guy. So Donnie and I were talking about how it's like 3 days in the wilderness without any cell phone service. Can last you for a whole year.
Totally.
Like mental health wise.
Right.
It's like if the VA can just like pony up the money.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if we have all these billions to send to Ukraine, I think we have couple $100,000 we can take guys on hunts. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just get them out there on a backpack hunt.
Right.
Getting them in the backcountry. You know, it doesn't even have to be hunting. You can take them, like do helicopter drops for snowboarding and stuff. Like that was awesome for me. Like I love doing that. So all those
it's universal. Like we found, you know, Vietnam vets that meet in Central Park, you know, with each other and just walk. I mean, it doesn't have to be, the spectrum is from climbing Everest to, you know, the most, you know, an hour of walking or, you know, whatever. Just it doesn't have to be, hike, you know? Yeah, right. It doesn't have to be that epic, but there's a ton of parallels. I mean, I think, you know, the way you're describing like your hunting experience, if you think about, you know, a guy who went to Afghanistan when he was 20 and had some, you know, trauma and did a bunch of deployments, and like he's going to get something out of that. There's so many parallels, you know, to the hunting world. And it's really, you know, backcountry skiing and mountain bike racing. I mean, it's the same thing. You've got to go out. Usually you're going to be sort of reliant on, you're going to take responsibility for the guys that are with you, you know, from a safety, you know, aspect. They kind of depend on you. You kind of depend on them. You got little missions. You're away from your cell phone for a couple of days. So it's all, you know, there's tons of parallels. And then you know, at the same time with the folks with the MDs behind their name are coming up with, you know, sort of physiological impacts too, you know, from effects of vitamin D and light in your eyeballs and, you know, all kinds of stuff that it's not just testimonial like, oh yeah, well, I had a lot of fun on this hunt. So that's mental health care. It's, you know, there's some real tangible studies that are starting to get some momentum and a lot more attention than they were, I think, 5 years ago or more, you know, on, hey, this is pretty viable. And, you know,
it actually works.
Yeah.
There's actually proof in the pudding there. Like it really does work.
Yep. So there's a task force going on through the VA that VOAG's a part of. And so there's 3 or 4 other nonprofits, and then it's Department of the Interior, Parks, Health and Human Services, a bunch of, you know, sort of stakeholders in veteran mental health to study sort of the how, you know, hey, we've got a pretty good consensus that this is real, tangible. The veterans want it. They're benefiting from it. You know, how are we going to implement it? It's 2 years and we're a year through it.
Okay.
In September. So hopefully, you know, a year from today, we'll, you know, sort of have line of sight on, you know, hopefully what's another 100 years of the way we do, you know, approach veteran mental health, and it includes outdoor
So we were talking about, you moved to Colorado, you get out of the SEALs, you moved to Colorado. What did you start? What kind of job did you jump into?
Well, so in the last year of my Navy career, I got an MBA.
Oh, nice.
It was where? From William and Mary.
Nice.
Yeah, right there.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. I was like, I'm gonna get out. I should go to school, and it was interesting. Like, I was a whole different person. I had like a different way of looking at the whole system. It's like, okay, I'm the teacher is not the enemy, but like the teacher can give me the grade, and this is like a mission. I just got to sort of like sneak around here and get an A, and I had a totally different mindset than when I was an undergrad, 10 years later, 10 years earlier. So anyway, I did that, and I didn't really have some of the honest conversations with myself that I have since, like, what do you want to do that's not war, being a SEAL? And to be honest, I thought, like, I have a daughter now that's less than 1, and I have a wife. I mean, I guess I'm supposed to just make money and, like,
provide, right?
Buy a house. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think I didn't even really think to, I was like, it doesn't really matter. You need to, like, you're going to have to pay your mortgage and stuff. Mm-hmm. So whatever you got to do. And so I ended up working with Mike's daughter's husband here. He's
Uncheck.
Yep. And it's like real estate private equity, sort of. I did
commercial or private, or commercial or residence. Sorry,
commercial. It's multifamily, like apartments and stuff.
Yeah,
here in Denver. And it was a wild experience. I learned a ton. I mean, it was pretty cutthroat. Like, from day one. I think they sort of took a chance. I mean, like, this guy was a SEAL. You could figure stuff out. And then I started, and it was a pretty high stakes game. I learned a ton, but I pretty quickly knew, like, dude, this is not, what are you doing here? This isn't, no, not at all. I didn't really, I mean, it was just looking back, it was just a total, you're going from, trying to find Al-Qaeda guys, and now you're trying to, like, sell investments in apartments.
Yeah.
Like, even if that was your 10-year end state, like, from one year to the next, it was just it was way too much. It was just like, what am I doing? I didn't have any,
You're just punching a clock? Is that how it felt? Or no real challenge?
It was just felt like, man, you're 30, I would have been 32, maybe 31 or 2. And, like, am I supposed to do this till I'm 65? That's sort of the way I felt. Like, is the sum of my life's work from here till I retire, like, buying apartments at a low purchase, improving them and selling them? I just had all these kind of questions about, like, identity and what's the point of all this. And I was fortunate. I mean, it was a good job, and I was able to, like, still ski, and I was finding enjoyment and some purpose, and I was home with my daughter every day, and it was just what a civilian job was, but I just think it was too intense. It was like too much of, like, a binary, like,
yeah,
from what I was doing. And so I did that for 18 months, and then this VOAG stuff started really picking up, and so I started finding out that...
How'd you get involved with this?
2 SEALs that are 5 years older than me, maybe, started it. Josh there, and it was sort of going when I moved out here, and these guys had deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq, and had come out here and were navigating their own mental health, post-service mental health struggle with mountaineering and skiing.
Yeah.
And then they started extending that to just other veterans, like for fun. You're like, hey, dude, come do this or that or whatever. And then they realized, man, like this is really, the VAs over there prescribing thousands and thousands of, writing thousands of antidepressant scripts. Mm-hmm. No one's getting out here and like these guys are saying this is changing their lives. So simultaneously,
saving their lives.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. So simultaneously, they this legislation was starting to get some legs. It was called the Accelerating Veterans Recovery Outdoors Act, and it was basically the genesis of this whole idea. Like, hey, we need to get money. The VA needs to provide outdoor experiences. They need to fund this because if you think about this, practice is going on all the time. It's just from donors.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 veteran outdoor recreation groups. I bet in hunting there's 500 of them, fly fishing.
There's so many.
So many of these groups, but it's just the money's coming from, private generosity, people paying for it at a donation. So we're just like, dude, you're the ones sending them over to Iraq. We need to be the ones paying the check for the all the treatment. So anyway, about this time is when I moved out here and I was like, man, I want to get involved in this. And then through basically a bunch of life circumstances and having children and people moving to different jobs, it's all volunteer. I kind of became the director of it. Not by that wasn't really my goal at the beginning, but guys just have like kids and they like move and get different jobs and stuff. And so, it was a huge blessing. So this was going on while I was doing that finance job. And I realized like, oh man, I'm probably going to have to line my income, whatever I do for the rest of my life is going to have some sort of like meaningful value that I can derive some sort of purpose from. Mm-hmm. And I'm still, figuring that out, I would say. I'm not, I don't have it all dialed in. I mean, at least know that. And that's something that first job gave me was like, you probably don't want to sell insurance.
Yeah.
That's not going to do it. You're not going to be happy doing that, but,
well, I can relate because when I retired straight out of retirement, local radio station recruited me to be like a co-host on an afternoon drive show, which was like 4 hours a day, talking about sports. And I just was like, yeah, I'll try it. And dude, I just was like, man, I was like, I didn't work my ass off and grind to come and do this now because I just didn't love it. Not that I didn't appreciate it, but I just didn't love it. It wasn't something I loved to do and I didn't feel like a real purpose in it.
Yeah.
And it felt like I was naturally just good at it because we're talking about things that I know, and I have a good sense for just like kind of bringing up, having a good conversation, but it started to become like this. I started to hate going in there. I just didn't like it. I was like, I don't like coming in here.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just don't like doing this. It's not, it's because now I'm talking about the things that I used to do and like, it's making me kind of miss that whenever I had already had it figured out, like the hunting and the podcasting was kind of taking that up. But it was like, well, we got to keep your name relevant, this and that. And I was like, I don't need this.
Right.
So I just was like, we found a way to kind of separate mutually. And now I'm doing this and hunting full time.
Nice.
And it's like, I just felt this huge weight off my shoulders when I stopped doing that.
Yeah, good for you.
I know that like steady paycheck isn't coming in.
Right.
But like I said, hopefully I was smart enough to save money, throughout my career in the NFL. And I have an awesome wife who just like manages the whole show, keeps it all.
Good for you.
I've probably said this on every podcast that if it wasn't for her, like I'd probably be broke and living in a van down by the river. Like that's just or I'd be up in a mountain somewhere and just living in a tent most of the year, because that's just how it was.
Yeah.
I didn't really care about any of the money and stuff. I just was like having fun, So it was really good to have, I think who you choose to be your partner in life is like the biggest decision you'll ever make, the most important decision.
I do too, man. Man, I mean, I think sometimes, because like when my wife and I got married, I didn't even know all that. I just like, I like this like girl, like I love her, you know? But then you realize, I think after like 5 years together or 6, like, man, if that would have been like, if you make a bad, you know, if you make the wrong choice there, like, golly, that's going to be super impactful to your whole life.
Well, it's crazy because, you know, I was watching this thing the other day about, you know, it's like an 70% failure rate in marriages or something. Is that what it is? 70%?
Yeah, I can look it up for you really quick.
Yeah, it's like 70% failure rate, you know, and that's like, you know, when you're talking about like a business decision, that's like the definition of negligence, you know? So it's like, you know, and we got married quick, you know, my wife and I. So it was like, you know, we were only dating for 3 months before I asked her to marry me. I just knew.
Nice, man.
You know,
good for you.
So it was like, I just knew, you know, I knew what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, if there's something in life like that I didn't, sometimes you like put in a ton of research and hard work and think something through and you make a good decision and you're like, yeah, I thought it through and I made the right decision. And like, but I hit the lottery with, you know, my wife's, she did all those deployments. I have 2 daughters now, and like all this career changes, and I don't know if I want to do this. And then she's just as, you know, as
how old are your girls?
Steady as can be, 4 and 1.
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old.
Oh, no kidding.
Well. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
She had a daughter already, so I have a stepdaughter. She's 16, so she's a junior in high school, and then I have a 4-year-old.
Oh, no kidding.
And they're just like, it's just
fun,
crazy.
isn't it?
Yeah, being a girl dad is wild.
Oh, man. It's nonstop.
The emotions that go on. It's, you know, especially with a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, she's just brilliant, you know? She's a brilliant kid. So having a teenager and then having like this, you know, crazy little 4-year-old who's like more like me, you know?
Yeah, what a dynamic.
It's really cool.
No, that's awesome. Did you find it hard when you were doing that radio show, like, did you find it hard to find interest in the sports?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just was, especially other sports. Other than football, I just was like not really that into. Like hockey was cool. And you know, but like the Nuggets won a championship, and I just was like uninterested. You know, because basketball just never was something I was interested in. You know, and it was like it's tough to talk about things that I'm not interested in talking about. I don't know if that's like an ADHD thing, which it probably is. But if I'm not really that interested in it, then I just kind of blow it off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I've been writing that those articles that I sent you. I'm getting like more interested in. It seems like there's a ton of group support for veterans. You know, in their, hey, let's get you from 30 days before you leave the military until 100 days after you get that first job. But seemingly almost nothing for like year 3. Yeah. Like I've been out 3 years, and that I found around like 18 months or 2 years is when guys really start to sort of have another transition where they're like, shit, you know, once you're probably gonna make a little bit more money when you get out of the military and move, and it's kind of exciting and a new job, and then it's almost like there's a lot more to follow, and that's sort of what that's why I reached out to Scott, because he sort of, you know, he kind of had that second. I think he finished in 09 or 10.
Yeah.
You know, then was really dealing with some brain stuff and, for forever really. But, man, they were Francesca and Scott, they're so sweet.
Awesome people, man.
Yeah. You say that all the time. Like, oh yeah, I met them. They're really nice. But I mean, truly some of the nicest people I've met.
Yeah.
I mean, they took me in like, you know, I was their kid or something. I was home from college.
Yeah.
You know, it was amazing.
They're great people, man.
Totally.
They're awesome. I've known Scott since like 2014. And for the first time I met him, man, he's just been such a cool dude. He's just like he was an enforcer, so he was just such a badass, you know?
Yeah.
And then you see this guy on the ice just kicking everyone's ass, and then you meet him and he's just he's all tatted up, big hugger. You know, same with Francesca, you know, she looks like she's gonna just rip your throat out, and then you meet her and she's like the sweetest lady ever, you know.
So sweet. They're doing a lot of great stuff for they've had some active duty guys up there to do snowmobiling and stuff. And, yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of good stuff for veterans, and you know, that's the other thing, man. Sometimes you find purpose in just helping other people.
That's right.
You know, so that's I think that's kind of what what you're leading into here is like you're finding some real purpose.
Absolutely.
And helping others.
Yeah. It's you gotta have some of that in it. I think, it can be like when you think about careers and stuff, like you don't want to be too far in either camp, no help, all money, or, you're volunteering all your time and you're like, man, I'm really struggling. I mean, both scenarios aren't great.
You got to find some balance there.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I've been here maybe I've been here since 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 3 years.
So yeah, I'm trying to pick up on like the writing stuff, some of this space, get the, I'm pretty interested in like all the stuff we're talking about, veteran mental health and stuff, basically because of, VOAG has become, it is more of an advocacy group, focused on legislators and changing policy for the long term. But
that's the only way to get anything done.
That's
honestly.
right. Yeah. We get all kinds of, individual cases too. So like if that stuff gets old and then you're like, people will call and say, oh my brother's really struggling and he loves whatever, fly fishing. I mean, it's endless, the opportunities to involve yourself. So it's been a huge blessing to be a part of it while simultaneously having a real job that's sort of, soul sucking in a way.
And you're still doing the private equity?
No, I'm in tech now.
Okay.
I'm in tech at Cisco.
Okay.
Working for doing cybersecurity, basically consulting for the government also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think of that? You said soul sucking.
I don't know who will watch this. No, I mean that this job that I have now isn't so bad, but it is. In every definition of a good W-2 job, it is that. I mean, they're generous with time off, healthcare, and I don't have anything. There's nothing that I can look at that company and say like, dude, you're screwing me or treating me unfairly. I mean, it's it's like modern tech. Some of the employee treatment and policies are unbelievably generous.
Yeah.
These companies now are like, you want to do yoga tomorrow? You do that. They don't. It's not at all like
it's wild.
like doing construction or something where like I did some landscaping summers and stuff, and it was like, dude, you're here to lay concrete.
Yeah.
And you will leave when it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great. It's great. It's just the content I think is not. Still, I'm not there yet. I'm not.
Yeah.
At the point where I could look at the next 20 years and think like if I wake up at 65 and I've sold a lot of software, like I'll be, that's something to hang my hat on.
Yeah.
And so, it's got a lot of opportunities for me to mentor guys that are in my position like 3 or 4 years ago, which I really enjoy. The Cisco vet program is like really robust, and so I spent a ton of time with
guys that were in your shoes.
Yeah, telling guys what I've figured out in 3 years. And I'm still definitely don't have all the answers, but I enjoy that.
Is VOAG what you want to be doing full time?
Yeah, or something, very adjacent, very close. Yeah. It's not, I think through the purity of the folks who've been a part of it, it's just not it's not really occurred to us to build like a revenue model, really.
Yeah.
We're like, let's like sell as many t-shirts or whatever. It's all about just getting the VA to make this change.
Yeah.
And then like once that happens, maybe we'll come up for air and figure out what we want to do next. And we're not really in the facilitation model either. We used to be a little bit like lead trips, like actually facilitate trips. We'll do maybe a couple of years sort of for exposure. That's where all these pictures are from. But we don't really. I mean, we're there to get. This is a cool project we did last year. In 2011, a helicopter, SEAL Team 6 helicopter crashed. 31 guys died. So we did 31. We did 31 trips last year with 31 vets, and each one honored one of these dudes. It was awesome, man. We had some guys that had served with these guys. We had families. We had, the gambit of different connections to the actual helicopter crash. And we did, and it wasn't just us. Like we supported other nonprofits to sort of lead. Like if a guy wanted to do something that we can't really, like deep sea fishing or whatever, we like enabled it through other nonprofits. So it sort of built a community of.
That was my next question. I was going to ask if you had developed relationships with like outfitters and guides and stuff like that, to where, they'll donate their time.
Yeah, they will
facilitate it.
Yeah, they will, and we have. We know how hard it is to guide. Josh, my partner, the president, is a mountain guide, AMGA, like IFMGA certified mountain guide. And so we don't need, the cost relatively is not too much.
Right.
So we don't do a ton of like, hey, can you take this guy out for free? It's just, it's easier. And I don't know that those who support us would like to hear this, but it's easier to just, say, hey, we really want to help these guys. Can you help pay for it, than to sort of, ask the guide service to do it.
Yeah.
But people are so generous with this stuff. I mean, they love it. They love, and there's a lot of players in this space, Black Rifle Coffee, that, there's plenty of businesses where contributing to this movement is both good for veterans and good for their business and good for a bunch of stuff. So it's not, the trips aren't super, super hard to pull off.
Yeah, because you guys have some funding, right?
Yeah. I mean, we do. Yeah, we have some funding. We have, we're not going to get like Bass Pro to cut us a 6-figure check. I mean, but it's, people are impacted by the trips, or they're people that, let's say, served and now they're doing really well. And they're like, man, when I came back from Iraq, fly fishing or hunting saved my life. And, I want to flip some cash into helping other people do that. So it's, I'll say that money is not limiting our potential. I mean, it's more like this. So this task force is going to write a report, which is going to go back to Congress. They're going to read it. They're going to allocate budget to the VA and say, you have to fund this, or you don't, or can it, or whatever. And so it's just a bureaucratic slow roll.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not something it's not like if Matthews Bose was like, dude, what do you need? And we're like, we need $1 million. And they're like, here you go. And then it's all solved. I mean, it's all legislative processes that can't be bought with money.
Yeah.
So
it's just slow.
Yeah. So anyway, back to your question. I mean, it is what I want to do. I think you'd have to I think there's something, kind of adjacent that you could come up with, where we've thought about like a center, like a VOAG campus, where you'd have maybe some clinical care, like a world where, like, let's say you go at 4 a.m., like you said, you're out on the trail and you're elk hunt, you're back by lunch, take a nap, eat a really good meal. Then you're going to see a clinician, get your clinical, side of the mental health care taken care of. And then there's a sleep scientist there. There's physical therapist there.
See, that's a good idea.
So it's like
you could also use that for placement, because you could bring guys in that are struggling, and just let them explore kind of the options that are out there, what kind of things they can be doing. what kind of activities can we actually do that can actually help, because there's different severities, guys are on different levels of like depression, there are different levels of depression. Like, I struggle with depression every day, but it's, there's different levels to it. So some days are better than others,
Yep.
It is a daily thing that you deal with, anytime you've had brain injuries, you're going to deal with like this random depression that just pops up for no reason.
Right.
You could probably relate to that.
Totally.
It's like you wake up in the morning and you're just like, why do I feel like this? Like, why do I feel like shit? So like, for me, I use like working out to kind of combat that,
Yeah.
But some guys, some guys are tore up and banged up and they can't train like they want to be able to train, Some guys are missing limbs and, all kinds of, crazy stuff happened to them over there. So you could use that for placement where they come in and you kind of give them an evaluation, and it's like, hey, here's the options that you can explore. You can explore, going on just mountaineering. You can explore just like, going on horseback rides or going on snowmobile rides or going on, just hiking. You can just go hike and ruck, and see if that does it for you.
It'd be amazing.
Just give them different options, and then you place them into that, and then it's, eventually they end up running the whole program. That's kind of...
Yeah, right. It's like an a la carte. You probably wouldn't want to use the word rehab center because it's sort of like, you probably want guys to go there that don't...
I would call it more like a recovery.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like an outdoor...
Not so much rehab, but recovery, like an outdoor recovery center.
Exactly. You get a little, when we talk through this, it's like, where's it going to be? You get kind of specific. You can't do every outdoor sport or activity. You have to pick a place that was sort of like well-rounded.
You'd have to, and I mean, you could. That's the great part about Colorado. You can find places that are, that you can do literally everything there. That's totally. There's a place up in Wyoming, just outside Steamboat. It's called the Three Forks Ranch. You can do literally everything there.
Oh, sweet!
It's wild.
Nice.
Like that place is wild.
Yeah.
They have they do a lot with what's the clinic that they partnered with up there? They partnered with, I think, the Mayo Clinic. So they partnered with the Mayo Clinic up there, and it's like, this place is high end.
Yeah,
like, it's pretty. I was just at a Polaris event up there with the UTVs, and I was like, whoa. Yeah. They have ski hills, they have hunting, they have fishing, they have snowmobiling, they have hiking, horseback ride, like literally everything. So there's places where you can find.
And then they have medical care providers there too? And it's civilians?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to look this up.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's called Three Forks.
Okay.
That's awesome. Super luxury too. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's so nice. But if you took guys up, if you worked out a deal with a place like that, you know what I mean? Where, hey, for a week out of the year, they would, because they're always looking for write-offs and donations anyways, right? Those big companies. You could do like a retreat up there. You could do, there's all kinds of ranches that do this that do similar things, but where it's like you can do literally everything,
Yeah, right.
And it's, you just pick some, I don't know.
Did you get one of those rock massages or what?
No. I didn't do any of the spa stuff while I was up there.
Dang. That looks nice.
Yeah, so it is the Mayo Clinic. You were correct.
Yeah, the Mayo Clinic. Yeah, so like there are places out there, you know what I mean? It's just, I think that with VOAG, you just develop those relationships with different.
That's right. Yep. Man, that's inspiring, man. I mean,
and the guy that owns that is he was a special operations helicopter pilot.
Oh, no kidding.
He actually flew jets too.
It's in Wyoming?
In Vietnam. Yeah.
Wow. That's
beautiful. It's on the Wyoming-Colorado border, just north of Steamboat Springs. If you go an hour northwest of Steamboat Lake, that's where it's at.
Yeah, there's bulls. They got elk everywhere up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that might be an option to reach out to them because he is a veteran. David Pratt is his name.
Okay.
Is the owner of that ranch? He's also part owner of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh yeah.
And then he sold a business in the 90s for like $600 or $700 million. And
good for him.
Yeah.
So at least he's doing something good with it.
Yeah. So he's a billionaire now, obviously. But
so this isn't their full-time operation.
No, this is just something he owns.
Right.
He bought that ranch in the 90s and has built it out to this.
Jeez.
Yeah, they still run cattle up there.
I just can't see them saying no to something like this. You know what I mean? Especially him being a vet. Like, I think he would be, because he has like all his, like around the place, you see pictures of him, with his, flying jets. And they said he had to recently stop flying choppers, I guess, but he would fly his helicopter in, all the time.
That's awesome.
I don't know. I would maybe dig into that and reach out to those guys because I think that would be. I know it seems like a natural fit.
Yeah, no, it's good to think about, man. I need someone to be like. We get pretty like wrapped around our current project, and sometimes it's hard to hit pause and think like, where could we be in like 5 years, or 3 years or something like that.
Right.
Helpful.
Yeah, the place is beautiful, man. It's awesome. They have their own ski hills dug in, or cut out and stuff. Yeah. It's pretty badass.
So are there, if you leave the state, are there opportunities to hunt? If you wanted to hunt full time, like I want to hunt as many days in a year as I can, is it limited to the fall pretty much all over the U.S.?
Well, there's spring hunting, right? Yeah. You have fall, winter, and spring. Uh-huh. And then right like in August 15th, I think antelope starts. So there's like you could pretty much hunt almost all year round. If you have the right tags.
If you wanted to do like a cool, like I'm going to hunt for a full year, you could figure out between axis deer in Hawaii and if you were to kick it off with a spring bear hunt, starting in Wyoming and then maybe something up in Alaska and then coming back and doing Sitka deer in Hawaii or axis deer in Hawaii and then coming back, and there's a deer tag that opens up August 1st. And if you want a really crappy hunt, you can go hunt in July in California, but their game management is piss, so I wouldn't do that. And then come back, hit the fall really hard, and you could go all the way through December with hard hunts, go to Arizona for deer in January, February, you could do Aoudad. You could stretch it out if you really wanted to like get divorced. Then you could
you really wanted some turmoil in your
marriage. Believe me, my first year I was pushing that limit. My wife was like, "Hey, I've had enough of this shit. Like
I've been there,
put up
man.
with you in the league for so long."
I think I had that conversation yesterday. I'm just kidding. But it's all the same, man. It's cool. It's ton of similarities I think between what you did and you're right. It's like so much. It's so obvious when you're a, active duty, and I'm assuming when you're a pro athlete of like, I don't really have to ask what I'm going to do tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah,
or in 3 months, I could probably someone has a schedule that says what I'm going to do in 3 months.
Well, I got a boss right upstairs.
Yeah.
Abby, my wife, she does a good job of like keeping my head on
the
head on my shoulders and my feet on the ground, because sometimes I get excited and I'll plan. The other day we were talking and I was like, she's like, look at all the hunts you have planned. Like, how are you going to do all these? And I was like, you're right. I need to like stop saying yes. And I can't just say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, because before I couldn't, I had to say no to everything.
Right.
So it's like, no, can't do it. Sorry.
Right.
Oh, you have a wedding? No.
Right.
Oh, you have this? No. Even when her and I would go on trips, it was like, well, I have to have a place for us to train. Mm-hmm. Now it's like we can actually go on a vacation. I don't have to worry about any of that,
Yeah.
So it's just about like finding a balance there with the hunting and filming them and what's important, what's not important, and picking the ones. And that's the other thing. Like it's, when I talk about bringing guys in and vetting them and placing them into the kind of things that they love to do, I know that I love to hunt elk with my bow. But that's only that's like 2 weeks out of the year, 2-3 weeks out of the year that you can do that. So what am I doing the rest of the time, right? I love hunting mule deer too, but it's like...
That's what my question was sort of around, was like in the spring, which you answered, but I was kind of wondering.
Turkey and bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, turkey hunting's fun too.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy. You just take a shotgun and call them and try to get them to come in.
You sit for that, right?
You sit for a little bit and then you get up and hike and go, and it's run and gun. There's all kinds of different techniques. Guys will use decoys and but I like running and gunning them. I like getting up and I can't sit there for more than an hour.
Yeah.
After an hour, I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
30 minutes really is like the limit for me when it comes to turkey hunting. But that's why I love Western hunting, because I grew up hunting whitetail and turkeys, and just a lot of just sitting around in a tree or, sitting up against a tree for turkey. So it was, or in a blind or something like that. So Western hunting where you're glassing something up and putting a plan together on how to go get them.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun to me.
And your Colorado archery hunt for elk is more you're moving, not deer stands?
Some guys do it, right? Some guys hunt out of stands here in Colorado.
Yeah, it's pretty rare, but some guys
they'll sit over water.
Yeah,
they'll set a stand up over water, or like on a migration trail or something like that they know that they kind of move through. But that's not fun to me,
right?
You know,
I
like hunting. So the way I hunt whitetail now is out of a tree saddle. So I don't know if you've ever seen a tree saddle. I use a company called Trophy Line, and it's like. You have like I'll carry 4 sticks with me, so I can climb up the tree, put a platform in, and then I'm tethered to the tree. Mm-hmm. So I have like a lineman's rope I go up with, and I tether myself to the tree, so I'm just hanging in the tree. Well, I'll hang out there for a little bit and then be like, oh, well, you know, while I was up there, it was kind of like a scouting mission. I saw that a lot of deer were moving on this side, so the next day, I'll break that down with me, and then in the morning, I'll go to that over there and go up. So I'm like constantly jumping around and moving, so it makes it tolerable for me to hunt whitetail. Yeah, that's how I hunt whitetail right there.
Oh, nice. I've never seen one of those.
Yeah, so just like it only takes me 10 minutes it's like a 10-minute setup. Yeah. Like you're 10 minutes up, 10 minutes, and you don't have to cut and trim everything up like with a climbing tree stand or with a lock on or any of that stuff. So it's super light and you can pack it around, and it's called mobile. It's mobile hunting.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. And it's a lot safer. You can hang upside down in that thing up there. Like it's not,
some ninja kills.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Some guys make fun of it, but I'm like, whatever, dude. That's how I like to do it.
That's exciting, man. I want to get into it. I kind of got into like endurance racing. I'm doing a race in Crested Butte this weekend, and I was running with the guy Sunday, and we were like so bored. It was such a long run, and we were like, dude, we should just. Instead of just running, we should get into elk hunting. Something. It seems to me like people are so like yourself, like so immersed into it, and they love it so much. I'm almost like intimidated. Like, man, once I take a jump in this pool, it seems like the pool, it just sucks you in.
It does, man.
Like
it really
becomes
does.
your whole.
I always tell people like, man, I really want to get into bow hunting elk. I'm like, well, be careful.
Yeah. It seems like it's really consuming.
Hooks you.
Yeah.
And it consumes you, and you're like, all you're thinking about all year long is getting to September.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, you're training all year long.
It's called Grand Traverse. It's and so yeah, one day I'm gonna do it, but I don't know, maybe it'll be next year. What's like the quality disparity between the over the counter hunts and private? Is it super crowded on all those?
Dude, it's so crowded in these over the counter areas. So really just building points to draw good areas.
Okay,
is what you want to do. And then like me, I'll buy private land tags, and I'll use my network system to kind of make that happen. Different sponsors will pay for tags and stuff like that. So like next year, I'm going to be in Alaska. I won't even get to hunt elk next year probably because I'll be in Alaska in August for doing a sheep and a caribou hunt in August, and then I come back for a couple weeks, and then September 11th I leave to go back up to Alaska for moose and bear.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so those are like the 4 big hunts that I'll do next year. And then I don't know if she'll let me go do anything else. I probably won't. I won't need to. I'll have so much meat that I won't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So, that's probably the 4 big hunts I'll do next year. So, for me, like that's this year I'm going down to the Gila in 16A in New Mexico, and it's like one of the best places on the planet to hunt elk. So giant bulls down there. So I'm looking forward to that. So there's ways to do it. You can also get I think landowners will do they'll donate sometimes. Don't they do that? They do they donate those tags to different foundations and stuff.
Yeah.
So
we run into that sometimes.
And you can do a lot of cool stuff down in Texas. Like you can get these huge ranches down in Texas that'll hook it up.
Yeah.
And you can bring guys down there and let them just shoot their shit out of pigs. They'll have a blast doing it. Get them in helicopters to shoot pigs. Yeah. That'll get your adrenaline up and get you going. I've never done it, but I've always wanted to. So I think that would, stuff like that. There's all kinds of cool shit that you can do with what you guys got going.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the hunting and fishing world is sort of the most built out and robust. I mean, I don't know that it seems like a natural fit for veterans. And I also think a lot of people that grew up hunting and fishing join the military, so when they're out there,
they go right back into it. Yeah,
they go right back to it. But they're sort of the leaders of, mountaineering has a lot of veteran stuff. Fly fishing, there's a big group called Project Healing Waters. They do
I've heard of
a
that.
ton of great work in the fly fishing space. And then backcountry hunters and anglers, I think in Heroes Harvest.
Heroes Harvest, I've heard of that, yeah.
They do, they do a ton of work. Yeah, and it's a ton of, wealthy ranch owners in Texas and stuff will hook them up with I don't think they deal with any of that over the counter.
No, Texas is way different. You just get a deer tag. And you can kill. I think it's 4. You get 4 deer, right? It's a lot. Yeah, it's I know you get 4 turkeys when you buy a turkey tag down there. So it's
still dependent on the unit, but if you have
you can go to these ranches and they got exotics and everything down there. You can just hunt everything. So yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of cool shit you can do, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing where
inspiring.
this goes.
I appreciate that. I am too, and it's been a real privilege to be a part of, and I'll keep you updated. It's good for someone to ask me like, well, what's the the plan, long term, or just someone to just say like, quit saying no and like just go for it.
Just try it.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the worst that can happen? It's like reaching out to you reach out to the Three Forks, see what they say.
Yeah, totally.
They might say no and be like, all right, well, I'll move on to the next one, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things you'll get like 4 or 5 no's in a row and then like an enormous yes. Like, oh, this looks cool here.
Yeah.
You can do come to our land or here's a check or whatever.
And I think the thing about that Three Forks is it's like an over the counter because Wyoming doesn't really have over the counter.
So for the Colorado side, it's in an area where it's a draw tag for residents, or it's a draw tag if you're on public land, but if you're hunting private like their ranch, it's over the counter.
Yeah.
So it is essentially an over the counter unit as long as you're on the private. It takes 2 points for archery to draw that as a draw tag to hunt on the public land, but for the private, since there's so much private up there and a lot of the herds are on the private, they're like, well, if you have permission to hunt the private, then it's an over the counter tag.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can get, I think they said they kill like 300 elk a season.
Jeez.
Right? I think they take like 300 bulls or something, they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of cool shit you could do, man.
Totally.
I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Me too, man. It's been fun.
It was great to meet you. Now we're going to go get a workout.
Let's do it.
That'll be fun.
Let's do it.
Thank you, brother.